Hi everyone, and welcome back to Comics and Chill, where today we will be looking at Dreamwave Productions Transformers Armada. Now, if you saw my last video, you'll already know how Dreamwave came to get their hands on the Transformers license, but you may not be aware of what Transformers Armada is. In a nutshell, in the early 2000s, Hasbro decided to reboot and revamp the Transformers franchise in a new direction and leave the original Gen 1 continuity behind. This was the first time a reboot like this had been done with the franchise, with the goals being to reach a new, younger audience and to simplify the toys themselves after the more complex transformations of the Beast Wars line. With Hasbro and Takara co-producing this new line for release in both of their markets simultaneously, the toys became chunkier and simpler to transform, and also featured a new line of bots called the Minicons, which could be combined with the larger Transformer toys to enhance them. The Transformers Armada TV show was produced in Japan under an extremely tight production schedule, leading to a poor animation quality and a terrible English dub. Needless to say, it was not well received, especially by older fans. However, the toys actually did big business with kids, and this version of the Transformers franchise ran from 2002 to 2006. It was supported by tie-in media, including board games, video games, storybooks, and what we're here to talk about today, an ongoing comic book series. Transformers Armada would be Dreamwave's second Transformers title, launching just 3 months after their Gen 1 series. The series was written, once again, by Chris Saracini, penciled by James Reyes, inked by Rob Armstrong and Eric Sander, with background art support once again by Edwin Garcia, and a whole team of over 10 different people handling the colours. Now, it has easily been about 20 years since I last read this series. It was not one of my favourites at the time, and I think I considered it a bit more kiddie, and being the mature 12-year-old that I was, at the time I desired only the fine wine that was the original Transformers. I remember not recognising a lot of the brand new cast of Transformer characters that the Armada series used, and also found the inclusion of the human children to be quite irritating. So how does it hold up today? Well, that's what we're going to dive into, right after a quick word about my new comic, Chewbots. Chewbots is a 4-issue comic book miniseries set in a small Welsh island in the Irish Sea, where a group of sentient steam trains live and work for a massive soda and snack conglomerate, the Zycola Corporation. The lives of the trains completely change when a meteor strikes the island, unleashing a radiation that unlocks their power to change into their new bipedal robot forms, the Chewbots. Confused and scared at first, the trains quickly become happy with being able to live life off the tracks, and things were peaceful for a while. However, their liberation from the rails eventually causes a divide among the trains, with two factions rising: those who wish to maintain the status quo, and those who wish to gain their freedom at any cost, wreaking vengeance on their corporate and human overlords for the decades of overwork they have suffered. Now, Chewbots is a comic I've been working on for many years, handling all of the creative duties on it, writing, artwork, colouring, entirely by myself. It's heavily inspired by my childhood love of steam trains, the Beast Wars TV show, and the slick style of Dreamwave Transformers comics. With that being said, this comic is very much its own beast, with a rich world and a cast of over 15 steam-powered robots. It has been a long road to get this book together, but now it is finally ready, and issue 1 is available right now on Kickstarter. Please check it out at the link in the description and pick yourself up a copy today. But now, back to the review. So I was not in a massive hurry to revisit this comic for my full review of the Dreamwave books, and even considered skipping it or leaving it until last. I just always remembered it being a bit of a slog, but rereading it today, God, I was really glad to be proven wrong. Now, I will only be reviewing the first arc, issues 1 to 5, but to cut to the chase, this book was a blast. Lots of fun visually and story-wise, and to me, an improvement over Dreamwave's first Gen 1 volume in pretty much every way. First, let me give you a quick summary of the plot for Transformers Armada First Contact. The story starts 1 million years ago on Cybertron, with news of a rogue faction named the Decepticons raiding Minicon villages, a smaller race of Transformers, and taking them hostage. It is soon revealed that the Decepticons have figured out a way to rewire the Minicons to attach to and enhance themselves, using the Minicons' power to provide more firepower and abilities. Think of it like steroids for Transformers. As news of this spreads to all the Minicon villages, a few Minicons who have survived and escaped have hatched a plan to free all the Minicons they can and then escape Cybertron in a ship they have built. Meanwhile, the Decepticons attack Cyber City, overpowering the Autobots. As Optimus orders a retreat, the Minicons escape, fleeing into outer space. However, one of their ship's engines takes damage and they are knocked off course, plummeting to Earth and being knocked offline. 1,000,000 years later, 3 kids on Earth, Rad, Carlos and Alexis, discover the crashed Minicon ship, activating a beacon that alerts both Autobots and Decepticons. The kids are nervous of the Minicons at first and hide them in Rad's garage, but the Minicons quickly prove they are friend, not foe, and ask for the kids' help in locating the rest of their kind. Whilst helping the Minicons, they are attacked by Megatron and his Decepticons, who have travelled to Earth via Space Bridge, seeking to enslave the lost Minicons, and the Autobots arrive soon after in order to protect them. After a close battle with the Decepticons, the Autobots are able to push them back when more Minicons arrive to lend a hand. With Optimus knowing Megatron will return to Earth in search of more lost Minicons, he says he and the Autobots will remain on Earth to protect them. The Minicons agree to aid the Autobots, but only as equals. And that's where the first volume leaves us, and it sets up the concept for the whole series going forward. Now that may sound like a fairly straightforward plot, and I suppose that it is, but the thing is so well executed and character driven that it really elevates itself into an incredibly fun read. First off, with the writing, I feel like Chris Saracini has been given way more room and freedom to play here than he was with Gen 1. Not only is the pacing far better, but the characters are all very distinct, and he really sells the plight of the Minicons. Like, I was really feeling bad and scared for them, and especially in the first 2 issues, he builds up the Decepticons as a genuinely evil and terrifying force. Later on, he writes the Minicons into these really kind of crafty and fed up guys who are just sort of sick of being caught in the middle of the bullshit between the Decepticons and the Autobots. And it's at points like this, especially when they're interacting with the human children characters, that even the rhythm of his dialogue is much better than it was. So in general, it's just a big step up in the writing from the Gen 1 series, which is a shame, as Saracini was only on Transformers Armada up to and including issue 5. Now the art, I don't even know where to start with how good James Ray's work is on this book. James Ray has got his start at Dreamwave by doing backgrounds on their original series Dark Minds and Warlands, and he said he'd been itching to pencil his own book, but didn't think it would happen at Dreamwave, as they were all about that anime style, and he was more inspired by Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri. But he came from a background of technical drawing, and after years of doing buildings and vehicles in his background work, he was more than ready to take on a Transformers book. And when Dreamwave got the license, Pat Lee offered him the Armada gig, and boom, he knocked it out of the park. With Reyes' technical drawing prowess, there's absolutely no stone left unturned when it comes to detail in this book. But that doesn't muddy things up. With his experience drawing backgrounds, he knows exactly how to layer in detail, vary up line weight and even line texture to keep his shapes and silhouettes strong, clear and distinct. He also has a very good visual storytelling chops, with the action and eye flow across the page always being very clear. He has a lot of energy in his work too, with it looking almost animated. And as I was reading this, in terms of design and story, I thought this would have made a wonderful 3D animated movie, kind of in the vein of Iron Giant. I know that's 2D, but it has that sort of vibe to it. And the character designs I absolutely love. I know that the character designs were all done ahead of time between Hasbro and Takara, but I do love the designs of all the new characters featured here, specifically Scavenger, Cyclonus and Smokescreen. But I especially love this version of Megatron with his crazy tall antlers and a hip cannon and shoulder mounted tank treads, all pointing upward, giving him this sort of demonic fork-like look. And compared to the simplified designs for the purpose of the anime, Reyes pulls absolutely every detail he can out of these designs. As I've mentioned, with Reyes having a background in drawing backgrounds for Dreamwave Comics for many years, he does a wonderful job with everything here, with some absolutely jaw-dropping shots of Cybertron. He handled all backgrounds himself for issue 1, with Edwin Garcia stepping in to help from issue 2 onwards. All of this is tied together again by inker Rob Armstrong, and I'm not sure how much sleep this guy was getting in the early 2000s, and some beautifully vibrant saturated colours from the colour team. One spot I would say where the art suffers a little is with the human characters, with them looking a little stiff and with lots of dopey facial expressions. Reyes even admits himself that he originally tried to draw the human characters in his normal style, but Hasbro felt they weren't on model. And Reyes said, "I tried drawing it in a quasi-anime style, not a very good one, and I sent it to them. And unfortunately for me, they loved it." So I guess he had to continue with this style on the human characters. Unfortunately, this would be the last long-form work that Reyes did for Dreamwave. Like Saracini, he left the book after issue 5, and the duo were planning to work on an Optimus Prime solo series which never materialized, and he had to move on to work for Wildstorm and Marvel. He eventually did one issue of the Armada series after it was renamed to Transformers Energon, and not long after that, Dreamwave was out of business. He would do some more Transformers work for IDW, but not a ton. These days, he also runs a very successful artist YouTube channel called The Box Office Artist, which is 1.5 million subscribers strong. He's got a lot of fun videos up in there, definitely recommend you checking it out. But that's about all I have for you today on Volume 1 of Transformers Armada. I'm glad that my memory of this book turned out to be so wrong. Or perhaps my tastes have changed, but rereading this today, all these years later, was a real treat. I actually wanted to just tear through the whole series, but thought it would be better to break it up, as the creative teams change quite frequently from here, so tune in soon for me to review the rest of the series. On the next arc, Pat Lee takes over art duties, and longtime Transformers scribe Simon Furman takes over as writer. Hopefully, it's as good as this volume. So I'll speak to you all soon, and for the meantime, I will leave you with the trailer for my new comic, Chewbots.